The 14th of August, 1480. The Battle of Otranto. Almost forgotten today is Sultan Mehmed I the Conqueror's amphibious attack against Otranto. Though in Western Europe, the Ottoman assault was easily the most electric news of the year. Southern Italy was an obvious target because of its proximity to Albania and because Ottoman control of both sides of the Adriatic entrance would force Venice to obey the Sultan's will. Venice did not want to be seen to oppose the Turks, who were vastly superior in strength. When they attacked Otranto in 1480, Venetian ships helped ferry Turkish troops across to Italy from Albania, though this met with official disapproval in Venice itself. 140 Ottoman ships carrying 18,000 men crossed the straits, including 40 galleys. After the inhabitants of Otranto refused to surrender, the Turkish commander Getty Ahmed Pasha made clear what would happen to the survivors and pressed on with his assault. The town possessed poor defences and no cannon, and the outcome was predictable. On capturing the city, Ahmed Pasha slaughtered the entire male population, leaving 10,000 people alive out of about 22,000. 8,000 slaves were sent across the straits to Albania. The elderly archbishop was struck down at the high altar of Otranto Cathedral. On August the 12th, 800 citizens who refused to convert to Islam were taken to the hill of the Minerva and beheaded without mercy. These 813 victims were canonized as saints in the Roman Catholic Church on May the 12th. Thomas Edward Lawrence was born on the 16th of August 1888. T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, was a boy's own story character in real life. Before joining the British Army at the beginning of World War I, he was an archaeologist and a photographer in Arabia. After Lawrence's graduation in 1910, he travelled to Jerablus, Syria, and joined an archaeological dig. This was the site of Carchemish, the eastern capital of the ancient Hittite Empire. The Hittites ruled much of the Middle East from about the 13th through the 9th century BCE. They are referred to in many places in the Bible. Abraham bought the cave of Machpelah from Ephron the Hittite, and both David and Solomon enlisted Hittites among their soldiers. David had Uriah the Hittite killed so that he could have Uriah's wife, Bathsheba. Solomon apparently had Hittite wives and sold chariots and horses to the Hittites. This powerful people were, however, defeated by the Assyrian king Sargon at Carchemish in 717 BCE. It was at this dig that Lawrence befriended Salim Ahmed, or Dahum, a 14-year-old Syrian donkey boy who was employed at the digging site in Carchemish. Dahum stood out from the other labourers as he could read and write. Lawrence admired him and took him as a servant and a travelling companion. The two went on a cruise along the Syrian coast. Lawrence took Dahum with him to England in 1913 and showed him off to his friends, who were much taken by his beauty. One of them commissioned a painting of the boy. Lawrence erected a naked statue of Dahum on the roof of his house at Kadesh after convincing him to pose naked, an incident that scandalised the villagers. It was through Dahum that Lawrence was first introduced to Oriental dressing when the pair exchanged attire for the first time, an act that marked the beginning of Lawrence's experimentation with Oriental costume. The exact nature of Lawrence's relationship with Dahum has been subject to much speculation. James argues that Dahum was to Lawrence as a squire was to a knight, while Aldrich contends that the pair grew inseparable, suggesting a romantic and physical bonding between the couple. The extent to which the couple's relationship may have been romantic and how that may have manifested itself remains subject to conjecture. Lawrence's love for Dahum is explicitly declared in the opening poem in 7 Pillars, dedicated to the boy's memory. He died prematurely before Lawrence and the Arab army reached Damascus in 1918. The poignant poem, which laments the youth's death, has been described as one of the most moving tributes to young love ever written. Tracing Lawrence's deep affection for Dahum in the poem would also tally with Robert Graves' statement about Dahum being the only person with whom Lawrence had ever been in love. It is important to note that all of Lawrence's friends describe the relationship as close and affectionate, but not sexual. Many later historians are not convinced. Lawrence joined the British Army in 1914 and had to leave Dahum. Many will know his daring exploits as a spy for the British and his involvement in the Arab uprising against the Turks. Sadly, on his return toward the end of the war, he found out that the Selene had succumbed to famine and typhus. Lawrence's 7 Pillars of Wisdom begin with this poem. It most clearly fits Dahum, that is, Salim Ahmed. To S.A. I loved you, so drew these tides of men into my hands and wrote my will across the sky and stars. To gain your freedom, the 7-pillared worthy house, that your eyes might be shining for me.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working.
It's 1964, and in August in the US, the Beatles release A Hard Day's Night. Directed by Richard Lester and starring the English rock band The Beatles, John Lennon, Paul McCartney, George Harrison and Ringo Starr, A Hard Day's Night portrays 36 hours in the lives of the group as they prepare for a television performance. The film was a financial and critical success and was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, including Best Original Screenplay. 40 years after its release, Time magazine rated it as one of the 100 all-time great films. In 1997, British critic Leslie Halliwell described it as a comic fantasia with music, an enormous commercial success, with the director trying every cinematic gag in the book, and awarded it full 4 stars. In 1999, the British Film Institute ranked it the 88th greatest British film of the 20th century. The film's title originated from something said by Ringo Starr, who described it this way in an interview with disc jockey Dave Hull in 1964. "We went to do a job, and we'd worked all day, and we happened to work all night. I came up, still thinking it was day, I suppose, and said, 'It's been a hard day.' And I looked around and saw it was dark, so I said, 'Night.' So we came to a hard day's night." Here's some interesting facts about the Beatles that you may not know. Did you know John Lennon was dyslexic and legally blind? John grew up in a place called Strawberry Fields. Ringo got the idea of an octopus's garden after getting away during recording the White Album and borrowed Peter Sellers' yacht. He claims the captain told yarns about how octopuses hide in caves and find trinkets on the bottom of the seabed and place them around their caves. The octopus's garden. Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds was not written about LSD, as many claim, but instead about a picture drawn by 4-year-old Julian Lennon and a girl he sat next to in school. Lucy Sodden was a real person, and in later life, as she was ill with lupus, Julian would visit her and frequently send her flowers. August the 21st, 1983. Benigno S. Aquino Jr. is assassinated. The Philippines Congress signed into law in 2004 declaring August the 21st of every year as NINOY Aquino Day, a national non-working holiday, in order to commemorate the death anniversary of former Senator Benigno Ninoy S. Aquino Jr. Ninoy Aquino was a prominent Philippine journalist and politician. He served the province of Tarlac as the mayor of Concepcion, provincial vice-governor and provincial governor. As a senator of the 7th Congress, he was the major political rival of President Ferdinand Marcos and was one of the first to be arrested after the abolition of Congress and declaration of martial law in 1972. Aquino was put through military trial, charged with murder, illegal possession of firearms and subversion. He endured 7 years of incarceration before he was allowed to seek medical treatment in the United States for a heart condition. After 3 years in exile, he returned to Manila, but was gunned down before he could set foot on the tarmac. His assassination started a chain of events that would eventually lead to the People Power Revolution of 1986. S. Benigno S. Aquino Jr. was survived by his wife, Corazon C. Aquino, his 4 daughters, and his son, Benigno S. Aquino. Both his wife and his son later on became presidents of the Philippines. I have returned on my free will to join the ranks of those struggling to restore our rights and freedoms through non-violence. Seek no confrontation. I only pray and will strive for a genuine national reconciliation founded on justice. So there we come to the end of our second episode of This Week in History. If you have enjoyed this presentation, please subscribe, press the like and the bell button to get reminders of new releases. I do hope to get these out every week if I can. I do apologise for mispronunciations, and I do hope that you will forgive me. Please, if you've got any comments, leave them down below. I'd love to hear what you think about This Week in History. Do you enjoy the format? And do you have any comments about any of the items that we particularly look at